end. By 1800 BCE, most mature sites of Cholistan were being abandoned. Cholistan would be the western part of the Harappan civilization. At the same time, we see an expansion of sites in Gujarat and western UP, including Haryana. Around 1900 BCE, we do still have a fair number of sites, but we do have a disappearance of the distinctive artifacts of the civilization. For example, the standardized weights, the standardized seals, and the beads, which kind of marked out the Harappan civilization as something unique. Um in the later sites, we do not, see these artifacts. We also have a decline of long distance trade, a decline of writing, and also the quality of constructions. Yes, so this obviously is hinting towards a decline of the civilization. What could have been the causes? Now, many different scholars over a period have offered different arguments. Some say that there was climatic change, agricultural operations were changing, and people were relocating because earlier regions were now overexploited, and the land was not fertile anymore, and they had to move away. Large scale deforestation, some say, led to erosion, and again, problems in occupation and so on, and they had to move away from there. Some claim that there were excessive flooding, and yes, some of the sites along the river Indus do show signs of flooding. Others have said the shifting or drying up of rivers. For example, the Saraswati river sort of tends to disappear. There's a Ghagra river which seems to have disappeared and dried up, or the Indus is changing its course, so which is sort of flooding some of the older sites. Others say overuse of the landscape led to decline of overall quality of life. Others have said the decline of the ruling class or decline of a centralized authority led to the decline of a civilization. And yet others have talked of an invasion theory. But when you're asked this question in the exam, do not name any one cause. List all of them, and in your conclusion, talk about how it may have been a combination of different factors which led to the decline of the civilization as a whole. We now come back to how the Harappan civilization was discovered. So, for the longest time, in fact, in 1924, nobody knew that there was such a civilization in the northwestern part of India. So, starting with Cunningham, now he was the first Director General of the ASI. His main interest area was the archaeology of the early historic period of India and a little later period. He largely preferred to refer to accounts led by Chinese and Buddhist pilgrims, and he trusted the written word more than perhaps archaeological evidence. And when he did come across some of the Harappan seals, he couldn't really place these Harappan seals in any of the contexts that he was interested in. So these seals kept lying in his cupboard till sometime later. In the early 20th century, in fact, towards the middle of, the second decade of the 20th century, Dayaram Sahani and Rakhal Das Banerjee, stumbled across Harappa, and they realized that this was something quite different from what they were familiar with. And they reported this to John Marshall, who then surveyed the sites, excavated this area, and announced in 1924 that India's history was going to be pushed back by another 3,000 years, and said that a new civilization, and that a new old civilization has been found. And he, of course, called it the Indus Valley civilization, which we today more commonly know as the Harappan civilization. But there were some problems with John Marshall's techniques, even though he was the first professional archaeologist that the ASI had seen. He was not only interested in spectacular finds, he was also interested in objects of everyday use. But the problem was that he excavated along equal horizontal lines without keeping in mind the actual soil stratigraphy, and this led to the loss of very important data for dating the archaeological finds of the Harappan civilization. But this problem was corrected by R.E.M. Wheeler, who joined as Director General of ASI in 1944. He brought in military precision in archaeology. He had worked in the army, so he was quite disciplined in that sense. And he followed the excavation along the stratigraphy of the mound. Yes, so this was a new scientific development in archaeological techniques. So he corrected some of the problems that were created by John Marshall's horizontal excavations, but some of the data, of course, was irreparably lost. Now, what is interesting that after partition, most of the important sites actually were lost to India, to Pakistan. So the ASI began new explorations in Gujarat, in Haryana, in western UP and northern Maharashtra, and many new sites since then have been discovered. So the extent of the civilization has now been widened, and new sites like Lokthal, Rakhi Gadhi, Dholavira, Kalibangan have come to the fore. Yeah, so modern day archaeologists are also using modern scientific methods to chemically analyze artifacts, which promise that they will throw